12 years. And this is one of the first areas that we targeted for development. And we try to keep the businesses that were here, like Gershil's, Larico's, Paul Murphy. We brought in Save-A-Lots and worked with Chris Moran and the West Side Bazaar and Weedy. And one of our goals all along was this parcel of land that we're on. Yes, we did catalog all of the properties up and down Grand Street, and what can we do with this building, what can we do with, what reuse can we have for this building. But we also said this is a perfect parcel of land for development. And we made attempts to contact the ownership of this lot, and for many years there was no return. They didn't return our phone calls up until recently. We asked the City Office of Strategic Planning to become involved in this lot for future development. And we did receive a call from owners' representatives. We have Lenny Cholino here, and we have Brian Rust representing the ownership of this parcel of land. And our goal for this meeting is to find a use for this land. Short-term, long-term, find something for this land. Our goal is to see this lot develop. And I'm sure from our conversation today, many ideas are going to flow on a use for this lot. And I want you to ask the questions, but not just here today. There'll be other opportunities to engage the community on an adaptive reuse or use for this lot. I think this would be an impetus for many of the things that are happening on the west side, particularly Grand Street. We're seeing interest throughout the district, throughout the Assembly District, and throughout the west side, where people are now knocking on our doors saying, hey, we want to do business with you on the west side. We've seen property values go up. We've seen a new generation of folks move into the neighborhood. We're seeing infill housing. We're seeing people moving back from the suburbs and even out of town that want to live and experience the west side of Buffalo. And you can tell by the property values. If you're out in the market looking for property, you're going to tell me, I can't afford to buy a house on the west side. It is both good and bad. So we're working on a number of issues, whether it's market rate, whether it's affordable housing. We want to make sure we take advantage of any opportunities they are. And I think this is an opportunity that we have before us today. And certainly there are people here that have more experience in terms of development. We have Push that has worked in the community for more time than I've been a council member. And we have Sean Ryan, who used to work with Push regarding development. So we have some expertise here in the city of Buffalo on the west side. I want to encourage the ownership to continue to work with the community, engage the community. We'd like further conversations and opportunities going forward with the ownership itself. And I'm hopeful that he will listen very closely to some of the opinions that are coming forward. The owner is in New York City. He has 2 representatives here. And I want to thank them because they came forward and said, okay, we want to do something right now with this lot. And let's get together with the community.
So when I first moved over to Grand Street, this lot bugged me. And when I worked for Push years ago, this lot bugged me. And it bugged me because it was always covered with trash. And there was broken bottles here, and it looks like construction debris, around the exterior. And I think if you tried to do this 2 blocks over on Elmwood Avenue or on Hurdle or on Jefferson, you think you can get away with this? No. So why should we have to put up with it in our neighborhood? Right. It's unacceptable. So I just try to bring this sort of one standard to all the city of Buffalo, that this neighborhood shouldn't have to put up with ill-maintained lots any more than any other neighborhood does. Right. If it doesn't work on Elmwood and it doesn't work downtown, it doesn't work on Hurdle, it should not work on Grand Street. So we put some pressure on the owner. The owner is this huge conglomerate, owns a bunch of stuff, owns gas stations, net worth in excess of $1 billion, above $1 billion. So at the very least, we said you got to clean it up. So they came and they cleaned it up. We're asking them also, you got to get rid of these big blocks, like they're just not conducive to a neighborhood. Maybe if there's an active construction site, you can keep that up while you're doing your construction. But we gotta get rid of those. We like some grass planted here, but those are all temporary measures. What we really want here is for this site to contribute to the commercial strip on Grant Street. And we all know how you do that. You build a building that's got first floor commercial and upstairs affordable housing. That's what we need. So this lot's been vacant, I think, at least 15 years. It was a gas station. It's supposedly environmentally sound. The tanks are gone, so we can't allow people to do hold and save in the neighborhoods, hoping that somehow this turns into $1 billion parcel that they could go sell to condo developers. Are we looking for that?
No.
Right. So we would like to have preserve affordable housing in the west side, and you do that by turning these buildings into affordable housing buildings. And it's as simple as that. We know the model. We want to add to the streetscape. Grant Street's vibrant. It's bustling. We want to make Grant Street serve the community better, having more options for shopping, all walkable, all designed to serve the community. So I'm interested in hearing tonight about interim uses, but the interim uses are not our gold medal. We only want an interim use as we're developing a permanent full-time plan for the site. So what I don't want to do is say, well, we're going to plant flowers and it's going to look good, and then you're going to be happy waiting 10 more years. So we want it to be kept clean. We want it to be kept safe. We don't want any more broken glass, broken debris, and yet the owner has, kept it pretty clean. If we remember what this looked like in the late winter and spring, it was full of debris. When we did our cleanup day, bags and bags of garbage came off this lot. So, what we want to make clear is that whether it's this lot or other sort of people holding lots on the west side, we're not going to put up with them being in decrepit condition. We want these properties to roll back. We want people living here. We want commerce going on, not speculators holding on thinking that someday this will be, worth big bags of gold. Because right now, what it's worth to the community, it's a detriment to the community in its current site. So we want to keep moving on the interim. We want it to look nicer in the short term. I want to get rid of some of these barriers, but the long-term conversation is how do we make this into a vibrant mixed-use building that's affordable.
I've been here since 1980, okay, and I've seen this area, okay, and it's been too long looking this way. I want to see something where the community is going to benefit, where the businessmen can grow, and everybody needs to make money, but everything needs to be sustainable. We need a place where we can have fresh food and fresh fruit, and I mean, we have markets, but we need places where low-cost services and products can be given and provided for at low cost for the people that live here. We live in an area where everybody is on a fixed income. So it's real important that not just people who have money, but people who need to make money, of course, and people who want to buy and help keep businesses in our area. So one of the big things I want to see is I want to see a market, a place where people can come that's affordable. But I want to see the owner of this place not be a zero in my eyes, but actually be a hero to our community.
All right. Heroes, not heroes. Anybody else?
Whose streets?
Our streets!
Whose streets?
Our streets!
I just wanted to ask, first of all, if has the West Side Bazaar expressed interest in this corner? I believe they have. And this seems to be one of the only opportunities to really keep the West Side Bazaar with they're planning on expanding and they're looking for a space along this size. I would just think that this would be the perfect place to keep them on the street.
Interim development and long-term development. I was wondering if it would be feasible, and we were also talking about green space. I was wondering if it would be feasible for you to commit to leaving at least 25% of the square footage of the lot as green space even after development, because I believe it's important for our green space to be preserved. Even some of the good development that's happening ignores the green space around it and tries to get around the building code and the green code. And they're taking away from that because they want to maximize their profits by expanding as much square footage into the building as possible. I'd like to hear a commitment that you would leave 25% of the square footage of the lot itself as green space.
Just wanted to, let you know, to let the owner know that this is an underdeveloped neighborhood, and without moving forward or building something on this property, like if he's holding on thinking that in 10 years he's going to make $1 million off it, it's not going to happen unless he participates at this point, because this seems to be the anchor that divides the better half of the street from the worst, so he's not going to make $1 million. That's the only point that I want to make too.
And I would just like to say, this neighborhood holds a special place in my heart. I was born and raised 4 blocks from here. So I really would like to see something. I remember when Grant Street, when I was a kid, I went to Annunciation Grammar School. I remember when this was a bustling business district, and I would like to see nothing more than that happen again.
I would like to see, instead of my immigrant refugee women staying home all day, cooking and cleaning, I would like to see a center for the women, the seniors, the immigrant seniors, where they can learn English and do things. A center where they can practice their heritage, their culture, and bring that livelihood out here. It's not just first of all, I heard that American doesn't have a culture. We got the culture. We indigenous women, we got the culture. I would like to see a center where women can be themselves, practice that which they know, instead of just staying at home all day. That ain't right. That's what I would like to see.
It's hard for us to get vacant lots now. It's hard for us to get vacant homes and turn into green, sufficient, affordable housing. So the housing stock that we have now, we're probably not going to wind up buying more housing. So this is actually something that can be big for the community to get what they want. And obviously we'll be canvassing for like the next 2 to 3 weeks, basically asking the community what they want to see with this lot. We have forms, they're green cards. They say what you don't want and what do you want on this lot. And hopefully that the owner of the property can actually work with Push Buffalo and different organizations like Weedy and other people that can actually do something with the property. Even have the green space that people do want. But we need to make sure that it's not owned by another developer that's going to gentrify our city, that's going to make $1,400 apartments or more, and actually kicking us out because taxes are going to only go up in the neighborhood. Let's make sure that we get affordable housing, the real definition of affordable housing. Not a house that costs $600 and it's owned by a slumlord and he put Band-Aids on the house. Look at Push Buffalo housing. Yes, it's 5-year waiting list to get into one of our houses, but it's actually better than even waiting for Section 8 right now. And it sucks, but that's the housing market. Look what happened to Shoreline. Look what happened to Pine Harbor. Look what's happening to Macaulay Gardens. Look what happened to the Perrys. Let's build something here that belongs to the community. Who else wants to speak? Because we need this lot.
I'm a birth doula. I help pregnant mothers throughout labor and pregnancy and to provide support. It's an old tradition. It comes from indigenous cultures. And right now, the Black maternal death rate is 40% higher in the U.S. than that of third world countries. Black mothers are dying for no reason in labor at rates that are ridiculous. And right now, so many Black birth workers and so many birth workers of color and birth workers of all races are working to develop a space where we can serve the community in Buffalo, make sure that underprivileged girls are getting attention and support without judgment. We're hoping to help educate mothers on their rights during birth and labor, and their options and places that they can birth, and to tie that with creating a space for the indigenous women in this community to be themselves and support their cultures, because it's all tied together. If there was a place where we could have both of those things working together and using this, old tradition to help save lives now, because that's what we've forgotten, that would be amazing. So if anyone else is interested in that, please let me know.
All right.
When I suggest a community garden, I'm certainly talking about the second option. It's yours forever, in perpetuity. So here's a question for the 2 elected officials. I'm a big fan of the West Side Bazaar for sure. I think it's one of the best developments that's happened on the west side ever, in part because it draws a clientele that's all colors and cultures, which I think is very important. If it only draws one culture, I think it's deficient. Point made. Here's the question. And I'm all for expanding it. Here's the question. Is this location the only place on the west side where it could go? Meaning, it seems to me there's lots of current existing structures, and there's a significant amount of open space. I can understand Grant Street, but is this the only, it's either this or lose it to the east side?
We are working to keep the West Side Bazaar. We're trying to keep them on the west side, and particularly on Grant Street.
All right.
We wanted to stay right here. Assembly member and I have met with the board of directors, and we encourage them not to relocate somewhere else, especially when we haven't completed the work that we started here on Grant Street. And that goes way back. It's been years now. Our feeling is their mission and goal when they began their vision was to begin an incubator on Grant Street to help small businesses develop. And we're still in the process of developing small businesses to fill in all those storefronts that you see on Grant Street. So our goal is to work along with them, and they've been great partners. And they have a need for space. They've looked up and down Grant Street, and they still haven't found a location that meets their needs. And this is one area that Assemblymember Sean Ryan I just threw out there and said, hey, this might be a good mixed use. Perhaps first floor for bazaar and the other floors for affordable housing, because you certainly have a need on the west side for affordable housing. I think we've all agreed to that. We've had mixed use. We have market rate on Grant Street. We have market rate on Elmwood in different parts of the west side. But there is a need for affordable housing in the city of Buffalo. Just look up and down the side streets of people that are looking for apartments and being displaced because they can't find places that they can afford to live in. And that is a reality that we're experiencing right now. People are being displaced to neighborhoods they don't know, community centers they never went to, churches they never went to. They want to stay right here where they've lived all their lives. And we're trying to help that. So wherever we have an opportunity to bring affordable housing, we certainly become advocates of affordable housing. And we also understand there's a need for market rate apartments in different parts of the city, and that's fine. We extend the welcome mat to everybody that wants to do business in the city of Buffalo. We don't say no to market, but yes, we say we need more affordable housing units in the city, not just on Grant Street, but in Larkinville, the Fruit Belt, different on Hurdle, on Grant Street. We should have affordable housing where people want to live, and we're not seeing that yet. So I'm a proponent of affordable housing in strong neighborhoods and neighborhoods like this as well.
And just to reiterate a point that Christian made, there's a lot of cheap apartments on the west side. But do you want to live in an apartment full of lead? Do you want to live in an apartment that's got awful heating, old windows? It's, you know, so we have all sorts of affordable housing, but it's of no quality at all. So what we really need in our community is, of course, affordable housing, but also throughout our community that make a lot of the doubles that are being rented to be quality housing. You know, right now there's very little code enforcement. People, you know, landlord says take it. It's just the way it is. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. So we need a really holistic policy on how we, you know, treat affordable housing, but also how we treat poor people who are in de facto affordable housing that's in atrocious conditions. We have to remedy that. But to come back to the owner and the owner's rep, Lenny, who's here today, hopefully we can take this information back to the owner and say, look, there's a lot of nonprofits who are probably interested in this. Let's do a contract for sale. Let's put this back to the community's use.
I'm really sick and tired of seeing these kids going out and just shooting up places like they think they can run it. I really want to see a change where they can have a community center here, like right here too, and actually have a basketball court, soccer courts, anything for the kids that can have fun. Because I really can't believe that I can see people that have to go down the street to LaSalle, and they can't do it because it's too far of a walk, and kids just don't care. And I'm just seeing people getting hurt, getting mistreated, getting misplaced. I just want to see a change in this community. I'm west side on Prospect. I just want to see a change and see a future where I can have my own kids and my future and my generation, where we can actually have a right to be able to step outside and not be harassed. And not be like, oh, you, because you're race, we can't trust you. I just want to see a better place.
Those are very good points, and we have had this conversation with the owner, and he is absolutely willing to take that avenue if that's what the community decides.
Yes,
So if that's what everybody agrees on,
yes.
he is more than happy to do the site work and put up more decorative barricades around here, whatever fencing may require, but he would be willing to do that.